Hey everybody, welcome to Secure the Seat Live. I am your host, Minda Harts, and I'm so happy that you're here with us. Happy Black History Month. You know, I got my ladies with me, Harriet on one side, Shirley in the back, and I got Ida B. Wells on the front of me. So we're celebrating just Black excellence all around. Please share some of your role models for this month. Every month really is Black History Month, but if there are certain people that you want to highlight, please share it with us in the chat. I know one of my sheroes is Ida B. Wells. She's done so much to advance Black women and just the society as a whole. And so we say their names. If you've never been to Secure the Seat Live, thank you for joining us. If you've been rocking with us from the very beginning, you already know you are part of the squad. And so happy that you're here. I am excited to share with you a few things today, but I first want to bring my guest on. You know, each week I bring on a diverse person that I admire. Shannon Cohen we've been a friend online. We've been a friend to each other online, and some of those connections that you make online sometimes trump even the ones that you have known all your life. And so I appreciate women like Shannon who lean into their courage and they show up for us women of color, for us Black women. And once I found out about the work that Shannon does, I couldn't tell enough people about her. And so without further ado, let's bring Shannon to the stage. How are you, Shannon?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing, Minda?
I'm good. You know, anytime I get to talk about business and grits and rap lyrics, it's a good Monday for me.
Yes.
It's a great Monday. For those who may not know about you, Shannon, you are an author, you are a speaker, you are an emotional intelligence expert, but tell us what, you know, the internet might not know.
Yeah, so I am the founder and CEO of Shannon Cohen Inc. And at the end of the day, regardless of all of the spaces that we're in, there are three things that we do. We curate products, spaces, and experiences that nourish human souls. And so that happens in a variety of ways with emotional intelligence consulting that we do for clients nationwide. I have a podcast, a 15-minute inspiration and strategy podcast called Tough Skin, Soft Heart. We do an annual Rockstar Woman Brunch, which went global last year. And then we also have a Tough Skin, Soft Heart product line that's headed to Target in 19 days.
Wait, say it again. What about Target?
Yes. So our inspirational product line, which is also called Tough Skin, Soft Heart, is headed to 1,200 Target stores nationwide on February 19th.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Mike's going to drop Shannon's information inside of the chat because we want to show up for Shannon. This is an opportunity to collaborate and really shine a light for Black excellence inside of Target. And so make sure that you are supporting, make sure that you're purchasing, make sure you're telling other people, because part of securing our seat isn't just getting our seat at the table, it's making sure that others are as well. They're there with us. And so I have been a beneficiary of your products. You have been so generous with sending your greeting cards to me. And if you've received any package from me lately, then you have received a Shannon Cohen card. So appreciate that. Listen, we're going to talk about creating your own table today. And I know that sometimes people say, you know, there's like shade toward having a 9-to-5, or there's shade about starting your own business. Listen, there's room for everybody, regardless of where you decide to lend your talents. It might be at someone else's table. It might be creating your own, but I think it's also nice to hear from those who've done it. And so, Shannon, I want to start with the first question. What was the journey like to creating your own table? Why don't you walk us through that just a little bit?
You know, I love the question, specifically the word create in that statement, because I think that all of us have creative or innovative ideas that come to us all the time. And sometimes we shoot our ideas down before we allow them to take flight. So there have really been two mantras that have been anchoring principles to me in growing Shannon Cohen Inc. and Tough Skin, Soft Heart. The first one was believe and invest in the possibility of you. And then the second one goes right along with that. And that is, you are the first and the best angel investor your dream will ever see. And so I think those two guiding principles have been anchoring for me, because I started my greeting card line in the basement of my home. And when I think about our elders, when I think about women that have gone before us, we come from a long line of entrepreneurs. We come from a long line of innovators that used what they had. They started where they were and they birthed something. And I think that, has been so just pivotal in my own journey and in my own, path as a founder and as an entrepreneur.
I love that so much. Listen, if you have any questions, you've been thinking about creating your own products, creating your own table, whatever that might look like, a newsletter. If you have questions, start to flood those in the comments and we'll get to those in just a moment. You're so right about being your first angel investor. I definitely was my first angel investor. I kept working my 9 to 5 so that I could continue to funnel money into my company. And so, there's no shame in being a builder. Like, I didn't initially have the investors, but I was able to do it. So we have so much power that sometimes we don't look to what we have within our own realm, in our own sphere of influence. Shannon, as an entrepreneur, things don't always turn out the way we plan them to. But what maybe you could tell us about a time where things didn't quite work out the way the business plan had positioned, right, that you had thought. And then what do you tell yourself when you hit those roadblocks to help you keep moving forward?
So I started the Tough Skin Soft Heart product line in April of 2016. And in February of 2017, my son was diagnosed with Heckman-Schönlein-Purpura, which is a rare kidney disease that resulted in us going through a year of chemotherapy. So you talk about life happening, right? Like disruption and turbulence are all around us. Today's, we're using words like COVID to name the way that pandemic has shown up in our lives, but change the date, the time, the scenery, and there's always some form of disruption and some form of turbulence. 11 months after that year of chemotherapy, my husband almost died from complications with the genetic heart condition that we didn't know he had. So how do you continue to build even as life is happening? And you mentioned something, Minda. You said, what did you say to yourself? And I remember saying to myself, build slow, but stay ready. And I think sometimes what happens is when we
you took us to church on that one. Shannon, will you repeat that just one more time for the people sitting in the back row?
Yes, I'm going to echo it. Build slow and stay ready. I think sometimes when turbulence or disruption shows up in our lives, we are tempted to stop or to quit, to throw in the towel and to give up. And so what I had to realize is that while my pace had to change because I was navigating the way the disruption showed up within, I call us a 3-part harmony, my 3-part harmony with my husband and my son, I didn't want to stop. So I slowed down and I just tried to remember, build slow and stay ready. And that's just encouragement for anyone that's navigating disruption or turbulence. It's not if, it's when it shows up, it's going to show up. Yep. But how do you make adjustments that don't cause you to quit, but to honor what your family or what you need in that season of your life and that dispensation of your leadership? And that's what kept me anchored.
That is a word that I hope everybody will hold on to. And I hope that your husband and your son are feeling better.
I always leave people hanging with the story. They're doing well. My son is 7. And if you saw him today, you would never know that he went through a year of chemotherapy. And my husband went to boxing class today. So I'm thankful. I think our family is a living testament of it. I remember even when my husband was in the hospital, I was in a regional kind of Shark Tank competition for women founders. And I was going to quit. I was like, you're in the hospital. We don't know what was going on at the time. And he was like, no, you were out of all of these hundreds of applications, you were a top 10 finalist. You stay the course. Like we called family from, Detroit. We called in our support and our community to be with him so I could finish the last piece of my pitch. And I went on to win first place, which gave me the seed money to do my first national trade show, which is where I met the vice president of American Greetings. So I think back to that all the time to say, what if you had quit? What if you had let the pain of that moment make you think that you should throw in the towel? And so I'm always aware sometimes that disruption feels the strongest.
Yep.
Sometimes on the others, when we're the closest to our breakthrough.
So much right there. I hope that when we're done with the broadcast that you will listen to it for yourself again, but you'll also share it, because I often say we got to ask ourselves, what if, right? And I'm so glad you asked yourself that and you kept going and you had a support system to encourage you to do that, because sometimes people just look at, wow, she has a partnership with Target, right? But they don't know what came before that, right? And
yes, where's that tambourine? Now I need to play it. I need to play the tambourine, right? Because things that often look overnight are not. It is, the greeting card and inspirational product line of our business turns 5 this year. So it's been this seed time and harvest process. And I look back sometimes over the moments where I was tempted to quit. And I'm thankful that I did, like you mentioned, that I've had that community around me that was like, no, like I believe in you even when you're not believing in you. Because sometimes we shake as we are soaring and we question and we doubt and uncertainty creeps in. And we need, I like to say we need friends and we need people that act as emotional Visine. They help get the red out, right? And I'm thankful for the people that have been that for me along the way.
I love that. We definitely need those people to help us get the emotional read out. I love that. It's so interesting because so many people will even look at the memo, right? The memo did become a best-selling book, but people don't often know how how I crawled to get to that book. Right? I was like, there were times even writing the book where I didn't think I'd be able to finish it because I was going through my own health issues. Like literally, I'd finished a surgery and had to turn in a draft. Just so many different things. But that what if, Shannon? what if I would have stopped that day? What if I would have let those, things that I didn't plan for account for? What if you would have led those things, right? The stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. That's why we need good people around us, right? To remind us of who we are sometimes when we're not sure. And so let's take a question. Mike, can you throw up one of the questions on the screen? I know the chat's buzzing. How did you develop the purpose statement for your business, and how long did it take to settle on the one you use today, Shannon?
Such a good question. I think, I heard it said recently that a vision statement is really who you are, what you will do, and why. And I think that sometimes the progressive clarity that comes around who you are, what you do, and why evolves over time. I've been a business owner for a total of 11 years, and I will tell you that there's been seasons of progressive clarity. What my business was named 11 years ago is not what it's named today. So I think you have to give yourself permission in the process of becoming. I always love to say Lady Obama is not the only one that's becoming. Like all of us are in the process of becoming. But I think if you ask yourself those questions, who am I? What do I do and why? And and distill that down to the core of what you believe in and what your value statement, and that will be your vision statement.
I love that so much. The chat's going wild. They're just like, this is awesome. Just what I need to hear on a Monday. Thank you all for being part of our conversation, because we're not just here alone. The show can't happen without you. And I appreciate that. That's a great question. Keep your questions coming. I have a couple more for Shannon. I promise I won't be too greedy with her time. I'll make sure that we get some of your questions answered as well. But you talked a little bit, Shannon, about the partnership. I know you may not be able to tell us everything, but for those people out there that are thinking, wow, how do I, collaborate with other people? How can we support you? Tell us more about your greeting cards. Talk a little bit more about what's to come and what you're doing and how people can support you.
Oh, such a loaded question. Okay, I'm going to go back to the early part of that question. I started where I was planted. I think that you start where you are, and you sometimes start imperfectly. So when I started the greeting card company, I had a pilot event where I invited friends and family to just come and view the prototypes. And that was in April of 2016. And I wanted to get that feedback. I wanted to get that kind of customer response to what I was doing in order to refine it. And then as we did that, I started to sell the greeting cards online through an online store. And then I wondered, I was also becoming a student of the industry. And I think that's something that has to happen too, because I didn't know anything about the greeting card industry. So at the same time as I was building my business, I was becoming a student of the business. I mean, I was studying everything that I could to understand how the industry worked. What were some of those levers of access that I didn't know? And that's when I started to do pop-up shops in my community. I did every kind of pop-up shop. So we would literally on, Fridays, load our car at the time, and we would drive and do pop-up shops that were local or regional. I did my first state-based pop-up shop at that time too. And the closer I got away from local pop-up shops, I started to realize that I was often the only in that space, that the greeting card industry was not a very representative, diverse, or inclusive space. And so I think, I love to go back to some of those early pictures. I look at some of what my displays looked like when I started to compare it to now, but I began to grow and build relationships. And I think the one thing that I always promised myself is that I would deliver with excellence with small vendors and small partners the way that I would with a national retailer. And I think that's the magic, because you never know who you're going to meet. And I never play anybody small, any kind of conversation. And so I think it's some of those early business practices that we had, those early commitments to excellence and being a student of our craft, that positioned us where opportunity aligned with expertise, and then the door opened.
I'm speechless. But everything you said was just on point, and I just see people just re-quoting you in the chat because you're giving us so much. And I think sometimes, Shannon, people think like Rome was built in a day, right? Like they get frustrated when the partnership doesn't come right away, when they haven't sold X amount of products, and it really takes time with building. And like you said, showing up with that excellence and investing in ourselves. I remember when me and my co-founder, Lauren, it was early in the memo, my company, the memo, in our life. And we were in North Carolina, and we were meeting with a potential investor. And she says to us, what you guys are building is nice, but if I were to send you like 10,000 women of color to, buy your products, would you guys be prepared for that? And we looked at each other like, we'd be right back. Like we weren't even ready for what was coming, right? And what we did was we went back and we started to refine, right? How do we do our best with 5? How do we do our best with 10, right? So when the 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 comes, that we still have that level of excellence. So I'm so glad you shared that story.
Yeah, Minda, I think back to when I did the national trade show in January of 2019. Often when you're in some of those spaces, people turn their name tags around so you can't see what organizations that they represent. So literally, it was the last day of that trade show, 2 hours before teardown, when I met the vice president of American Greetings. And she didn't come up to me like, hi, I'm the vice president of American Greetings. She just came up to me like, I love your stuff. And we just started a conversation. Now, at this point, some of the other folks that had booths around me were starting to tear down. And it was some of those same principles to excellence at all times, to treat people with excellence at all times, to not play people small. And then she tells me, oh, and by the way, I am blah, 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 blah. And that started a 2-year conversation. And so I think that, that build slow and stay ready, some of those early things that I not only said to myself, but embedded in the DNA of how we did business, is what set us apart when an opportunity emerged.
Yes, because if you're not ready when that opportunity comes, not to say you won't get it again, but wouldn't you want to be prepared that time, right? And building slow and steady, as Shannon has said. Listen, we're almost out of time, but I want you to make sure if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. Shannon, and for many of our viewers know, I am a lover of grits and rap lyrics, and I cannot let you leave without telling us, well, first of all, how do you like your grits?
I can be both ways. I can do sugar, I can do salt, I can do savory or sweet. So I'm ambidextrous on my grits game.
Okay, so at least you're middle of the road grits eater. I understand. Okay, I won't harp on it too much because you do understand what it means to really have a good bowl of grits with some salt. So great.
Yes.
But what is your favorite rap lyric and why?
I think one of my favorite rap lyrics comes from a Janelle Monáe song called Queen. And she says, "You can take my wings, but I'ma still fly." And I say that to myself all the time. I think that I know what it's like to be overlooked and underestimated, to be counted out before given a chance. And so I've had to say that as an entrepreneur, like, you can take my wings, but I'm going to still fly. And that gives me that, like you talked about, that resilience to keep going.
Oh, that's such a great, I love Janelle Monáe, and that's perfect. And even you think about Black History Month, the Black men and women that came before us, people tried to take their wings, right? But they still flew. And so that was just poetic justice there. I love that. And Shannon, we have so many people who watch who may not consider themselves leaders, but I like to say that everyone is a leader. You don't need a title to do that. We can all lead in our own right. What is one thing or one piece of advice you would give our leaders on how to make the workplace better than they found it?
Such a great question. I think a couple of things. I think to dreamers that are listening, one of the things that I often will do is I take a look around my house. I look in my purse. I look in, my bag. I look at what I drive. Like, every single day we spend our dollars investing in something that initially began as a thought in the mind of someone else. And so I often use that to say, if I use my dollars to invest in the dreams of other people and the products that they create, I'm going to use that same intensity to invest in my own. I think when it comes to the workplace, I think that the future belongs to people that make equity a priority and not an afterthought. I think that the world is changing, ready or not. And I think that the future of work, those that will remain visible, valuable, and vocal and cutting edge in their craft, have to begin to design with people at the center and equity at the center.
That's a tweetable. That's a hashtag right there, and I love that. We have time for one last question. So many questions coming up, but Shannon, someone wanted to know what's next for you. What does the dream look like?
Oh, such a good question. I'm like, you know what? I think, I was sharing this with you, Minda. I believe that tough skin, soft heart for me is equal parts business and equal parts my ministry in the earth. I think that leadership is often lonely. It is one of the most beautiful but heart-wrenching things you will ever do. And I think that words heal. And so I think one of my goals is to continue to expand access so that our products find themselves in places where they can nourish human souls and people have easier access to them. I think that's just kind of what I feel called to do in this dispensation of my life and my leadership. And so being at Target is just one of those ways. You and I were talking about it earlier, Minda. People may not go to therapy or a faith community, but we're going to go buy lipstick and Lysol. We're going to buy groceries. And my hope is always that when someone walks into a store and maybe they're navigating pain behind their title, their smile, or their role, that they'll see our words somewhere and it will disrupt the ways in which pain may be present in their life. So that's what I know for sure.
Well, we're here for it. We're rooting for you. Shannon, tell everybody again how we can support your line when it hits.
Yes. So I think the first way is always at shannoncohen.com. And /products, you can purchase inspirational goods for yourself or for someone else there. But we will be in Target stores beginning February 19th. And so we'll be on an American Greetings end cap. And I'm excited that we'll be also featured with 2 other Black women makers. And so when you see that end cap, you'll see our faces and you'll see those cards. Please shop, tag, like, take photos, because the interesting thing about pilots is that if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And our goal is to have a sustainable presence in the store and not just a pilot at the store.
Absolutely. And the only way that we can make that pilot lap into legacy is if we support. So make sure, well, first of all, go to shannoncohen.com. We'll put the link back in the chat for everybody. there's products there now. So you can go ahead and get what you need right now. But then also when you're out there getting that Lysol and your wipes and all that stuff and your toilet paper, go ahead and grab some cards, because right now people are home, right? And I've sent more cards, and I've sent Shannon's cards than I have probably in my whole lifetime in 2020, because, you know, people need that extra touch. And so thank you for how you're showing up, how you're using your voice and your talent, Shannon. You know, everybody's just happy and saying, let's throw a couple of words of encouragement up on the screen for Shannon, so she can feel the love if she's going through.
Thank you.
We love that. And again, you know, thank you, Shannon, for joining us. Any final words you'd like to say to the community?
I just really want to say them to you, Minda. I wanted you to know, when I read the memo, I put this as a note today, but when I read the memo, it came as such a transformational season in my life that all I could think is I have to send her a gift. I have to send her a gift. And I just want to thank you, because I know so many of us tune in faithfully to anything that you do, because we are resting in the shade of your resilience. And so I just thank you. I can't wait for book number 2. I'm just excited. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And you blessed me when you reached out to me, and you've just, you know, I have your products right on my desk and your book. And I just want to thank you for how you show up for people that you don't even know, and how your words are so encouraging. And so thank you for those kind words. The last thing I want to share with you is make sure you definitely go support Shannon. Next Monday at noon, I have a special thing that I'm going to be showing you. So make sure that you come. My next book, Right Within: How to Heal from Racial Workplace Trauma, will go on pre-order next week. It doesn't come out till October, but I'm going to do a special Secure the Seat Live cover reveal. You'll be the first people to see the cover before it hits, you know, all the book outlets for pre-order. And you all have been on this journey with me, and I wanted to do something special by showing that cover to you first. And so join us next Monday. Shannon, again, we're rooting for you. Thank you to everybody who joined Secure the Seat. Black History Month is kicking off, but we live Black excellence every day. If you're a company and you haven't done anything, you haven't acknowledged it, you have till the end of the day to get it right. So make sure that you're out there doing what you need to do. And I'll see you all next Monday at noon. And thank you to my co-pilot, Mike. Couldn't do the show without you. Have a great day, everybody. Keep securing your seat.